Happy fall, everyone. Let's begin our healthy, gluten-free, sugar-free pecan pie by first making our crust. So I've got a cup of flour swap, a little sea salt, and 1/4 a cup of granular sugar swap. I'm going to mix those well. And these are really the same ratios you'd find in a regular traditional pie crust. Now I'm going to add my butter swap. This is 1/2 of a cup. And make sure this is room temperature, well stirred. I'm also going to add about 1 tablespoon of hot water just to give it a little extra moisture. And we're going to continue mixing until we have a nice crumbly dough that holds together when we press it. So I find it easier, especially with crusts, to get in there with nice clean hands, and the warmth of your hands will actually help pull the dough together. This isn't going to be a traditional dough where we roll it out. We're just going to press it in our pan. So as long as we have a dough that's going to stick together when we press it, it's going to be perfect for our pie crust. And this looks about right. I'm going to add 1 more little sprinkle of water. Too much moisture will prevent it from getting crumbly and flaky, so you don't want to overdo it with the moisture. Okay, you can see this sticks together when we press it, yet it's still crumbly. I've got a 9.5-inch pie dish. I'm going to grease it well. I like to use avocado oil. Make sure you have a nice thick coat, especially when you're using the grain-free flour, because it tends to stick in the finished pie. So just make sure you've got a good coat of oil. And then we're going to put our crust in. And we'll just start evening it out, pressing it in, working it up the sides until we have a nice, uniform, evenly distributed pie crust. Now, I assure you, this is the most time-consuming part of making this pecan pie. So take your time here. You want the crust to be a perfect shell for your beautiful pie. And make sure your edges aren't too thick. So I'm going to go here in the crevices, really press it in with my fingers, and then make sure the edges are nice and flat. I've got my oven heated up to 350 degrees. Now I'm going to par bake my crust for 8 to 10 minutes until it barely starts to turn golden in color. Okay, we've got a good pie crust here. And I wanted to quickly show you the little bit of difference between the whole grain flour swap and the grain-free. The whole grain actually needed just a smidge more moisture than the grain-free to get to that nice crumbly consistency, but it's coming together really well. And with my whole grain, I'm actually going to make some mini pies, so we'll show you that. Again, I'm going to grease well. And these are little aluminum tins. And then I'm just going to divide the dough equally between, I'm going to do 8 pies. And you can see I'm just pressing in my crumbly pie crust into these little molds. And it looks like it'll make 8 larger pies or 10 smaller ones. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with just 10 smaller ones for true little single serving cute little pies. Okay, I've got my mini pies all pressed in the molds, and to make it easier to transfer into the oven, I'm going to go ahead and use a cookie sheet, and it did end up making 10. Now I've got my oven preheated, 350. These will go in for 8 to 10 minutes until barely golden. We've got our par-baked crust here. It's been cooled, and I'm going to dump my very coarsely chopped pecans in here, about 2.5 cups, and then we'll create our filling. Next, we're going to make our caramely filling out of nothing but vegan ingredients. So we've got 2 egg swaps. Remember, this has 50% more protein than an egg. I've got 1/2 cup of well-stirred room temperature butter swap, of flour swap. And this is 1 1/2 cups of granular sugar swap, 1 full teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of pure vanilla extract. Now we're gonna blend this on high just till it's all pulverized, fluffy, and we're gonna boil it for about 5 minutes in a saucepan. You can also add about a teaspoon of cinnamon. I love just a little extra warming spice. Feel free to reduce it to 1/2 teaspoon, but I like a full teaspoon. And I'm gonna shake it up and then blend well. Okay, I'm gonna boil this on medium for about 5 minutes. It's gonna thicken and darken in color, and then I will pour it in my pie dish and bake. You can see the mixture has darkened, it's thickened, and it only boiled for about 3 or 4 minutes. We just want the sugar to melt and the flour to thicken up. Now we're gonna pour it in our pie dish. We're gonna pour a nice thick caramel sauce over our pecans. I'll just kind of fold in the caramel sauce so everything's nice and coated. Yum. This is gonna get really bubbly and chewy and thick as it cooks in the oven. I've still got my oven at 350 degrees, and I'm gonna make a quick piece of vented foil, and then we'll pop it in the oven. Okay, here's our vented foil. This is gonna allow the pie to fully bake, but without browning the crust too much. So you wanna kind of tent the foil. So we want the steam to escape, but we don't want the crust to brown too fast. So this is gonna do it for you. Doing the same with my mini pies, just loading in the pecans. And on my mini pies, I'm just loading a big scoop of my caramel filling into each pie. Again, I'll kind of mix it in with the pecans, maybe throw a few pecans on top for decoration, and bake. Okay, our final decoration, these little cute pies. Our beautiful pies are done. We've got our grain-free 9-inch pie and our whole grain little mini pies. Ooh, yum. A gooey center, nice crisp edges on the crust. So good.